Welcome to Just Minding My Business Media, where you get information that you can use. I'm your host, Ida Crawford. But before we dive in, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel and wherever you get your podcasts. So grab your notebook and pen and get ready for information that you can use. Well, I am so happy to bring to you today Kevin Bupp, who is a who is a Florida-based real estate investor, top Apple podcast host, and best-selling author of The Cashflow Investor, with over 250 million in real estate transactions under his belt. Based on his decades of experience, Kevin has identified mobile home parks and parking lots as the top real estate investments in the current market. Welcome.
Ida, thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Absolutely. I can't wait to jump into this. So let's start. How did you even get into real estate?
Yeah, I always like to joke and say that real estate found me. I didn't really find it. I'm 45 years old now, and I got introduced to real estate at the young age of 19, and ended up buying my first investment property when I was 20 years old, and up in your neck of the woods, up in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania, where I was born and raised. And I was showed the ropes by a gentleman who became my mentor. He was a local real estate investor himself. And fast forward, 20 plus years, and I've been doing it full time ever since. I always like to joke and say I never had a real job. I attended bar when I went to school, attended bar in the evenings, went to school, and then you know, got my crack at buying and originally buying and flipping homes, and then really began to buy, improve, and hold. And in turn building a fairly large rental portfolio in my early 20s, and then pivoted over to larger investments, commercial investments in my mid to late 20s. Started buying self storage and retail and some office, basically a little bit of everything. And fast forward a little bit further, 2011 bought my first mobile home park. That's predominantly what we focus in today. We own mobile home communities, and we've owned it as many 18 different states. I think today we're in 14 different states.
Yeah.
Um, and as you had mentioned as well in the introduction, also we own and invest in parking lots. So parking lots and parking garages in very strategic locations across the country.
Absolutely. Wow, that is impressive. You've had a really exciting career, to say the least. And we know parking lots is a good investment because parking is such a pain in the tush in every city. So
It
what
is.
so what made you get interested in mobile park homes? Why is that a good investment?
Yeah, that it's a great question. It was never an asset class I considered, and I just happened how a lot of these things go. I met an individual, had lunch with a guy that was a mutual friend. And he was an ex-banker by trade. He had been a commercial banker for 25 years. This is back in 2010. A friend of mine introduced me to him, and he's like, "Hey, you need to go meet Randy. Go have lunch with him. He's just an interesting guy. He was a commercial banker for a long time, and he owns a bunch of different real estate." And I said, "Fair enough. I love meeting new folks, especially folks that are in different industries." And I went and had lunch with Randy, and I come to find out that Randy owned a number of mobile home parks down here in Florida, and he gave me some intel on them that was very intriguing to me. One of the big ones is that they're not building new mobile home parks anymore. In fact, it's the only asset class that has a diminishing supply, and so there's more mobile home parks that get redeveloped or shut down or turned into something different every year than new ones that are built. And so it's got a massive supply demand imbalance. Um, on top of that, the residents are typically much stickier, and so they stay around a lot longer. I mean, we've got some residents in a few of our communities that have been there for more than 40 years. It's just like living in a single family subdivision to them. Like that's what it is. It's their community. It's their home, and it's generational in a lot of regards. So it's a very different rental. It's a really different rental, a different rental profile or
Mhm.
demographic than that of like typical renter of a apartment or even a single family home. That a lot of times a regular apartment renter will change or move every 12 to 18 months, every 24 months. Whereas, okay,
Mhm.
we've got folks that have lived in our communities for decades. So those are some of the big ones, but there was many other things that he kind of sold me on. I left the meeting intrigued, and I was so intrigued that I decided after that meeting, I was like, look, I'm going to go learn as much as I can about this asset class, and I'm going to go buy one. I'm going to either prove or disprove like all the great things that Randy said about it. And I did. I bought it. It took me about 14 months to buy the first park. It was in Atlanta, Georgia. Again, this is back now in 2000, late 2011. When I purchased that, and it went well. It was a challenge, but it went well. And bought the next one. They bought the third one, fourth one. Now we've we've owned, I don't know the exact number, probably in the realm of like 45 or so, 50 mobile home parks, in various different states across the country. And it's been a great investment and a great ride.
Wow, that's interesting. So, what is the difference from buying like a home park as opposed to a brick and mortar apartment building? I'm sure there's some differences in
Sure.
terms of maintenance and things like that.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. I mean, so typically in a normal sense, we own the community. So we own all the roads, we own the land,
Ah,
all the infrastructure, so water lines, sewer lines, amenities, if there's swimming pools, clubhouses. So we own the entire community. However, the majority of the residents own their own homes, and so they own the mobile home itself, and they rent the land from us. They rent their yard or their space. They rent that land from us.
mm-hmm,
And so the beautiful thing about that is, number one, it's a lot lower maintenance, because if their AC goes out, if their plumbing goes out, if their roof leaks, any of that stuff, they're not calling us. They're a homeowner. They're going to call a vendor to come repair it, and that's not going to be on our dime. And so that's a huge benefit there. But again, on top of that, one of the bigger benefits is that they don't move all that often. And if they do move, they put their home up for sale, like you normally would if you live in a single family subdivision. You put your home up
mm-hmm,
for sale. You continue paying us lot rent while it's for sale, and then you sell it, and whoever moves in assumes the responsibility of continuing to pay that lot rent. So you don't have situations where the homeless goes, it literally leaves the community. And that happens every once in a while, but I literally I can count on one hand the amount of times we've actually had a physical home leave one of our communities to where it actually got moved out. It just doesn't happen all that often. And so like those are some of the beautiful aspects of it. It's just an apartment complex. If something happens, change of a situation in their life, their lease isn't up, but they decide that they want to leave. They can just put the mattress on top of their car and they can go, right. And it's just a very different dynamic in the mobile home park space. So and then factor all that together, a lot lower maintenance, a lot lower management intensity. And if you compare a 100 space mobile home park to a 100-unit apartment community, very different dynamic of like repairs and maintenance and upkeep and just overall management responsibility. And so we have managers that work on site at each one of our communities. Some we have multiple staff. It depends on the size. Sometimes we have two or three managers, and on top of that, sales and leasing agents. This depends on how big the community is and if we're selling homes. Or some of our communities, we have a part-time manager, and there's not much activity because everyone owns their own home. It's quiet. Everyone pays their rent on time, and there's not a lot to do, other than just ensuring that people, keep the yards cleaned up, don't
mm-hmm.
park cars in the grass, all those little nuances that exist.
Ah, okay, wow. And I know a lot of people probably haven't even thought about moving into that arena, but based on what you just said, with the overhead being less and the people staying, I'd say that is definitely a positive move to make in going into the mobile home park arena. Now, do you help people get into that space?
As far as do
Like
we like offer training?
mentoring, training, things like
Um,
that.
not directly per se. I do host my own podcast. I've been podcasting for 10 years now. I've got two podcasts. One of them I don't record anymore, but it's still on iTunes, it's still on Stitcher Radio, Spotify, all that. It's called the Mobile Home Park Investing Podcast, and I ran it for about 3 years, and I recorded 100 and I don't know 20 episodes, and they're all still actually really relevant. A lot of very granular details on the operation side of the business, the good, the bad, the ugly. And so I guess as far as like advisory services or mentorship, I mean, I would say I would start there, and it's free. Someone could go listen to those episodes. I go through case studies of deals that we bought, challenges we had, how we overcame them, what
Mhm,
it looked like on the back end. But it just again was very granular in nature, and so I don't offer any services outside of that. However, we do. On the investment side of our business, a lot of our investment capital comes from limited partners, high net worth individuals that they understand the space, they like everything about mobile home parks, they've probably studied it. Some
Mm.
might even have owned mobile home communities, and maybe they've decided for one reason or another they don't want to be active in the business. They don't want to be the guy that's running the day to day operations and has
Mhm.
staffing and all that. It's just they want to put their money there because they know it's a great investment, but they don't necessarily want to do the dirty work. And so we do offer that. And so we have folks that
Okay.
come in and invest with us in our group, and we go buy assets on their behalf, and we do all the nitty gritty.
Okay. Awesome. So, if people want to connect with you and partner up, how do they do so?
Yeah, so I mean, the best way, just you can go to our website. It's investwithsunrise.com. Again,
Mhm.
investwithsunrise.com. The name of our company is Sunrise Capital Investors, and I mean, you can learn a lot there. Actually, like we actually we put a lot of detail out about the communities that either we've owned historically or we own today. I mean, we share case studies. We actually share real appraisals of properties of when we got them, when we bought them, to what they appraised for today. We kind of share the business plan,
Mhm.
what improvements that we've made, and so like you can actually get a lot of education just by going to the website as well, and learn a little bit more about us and just the different types of properties we like investing in and why.
Oh, okay. So, let's talk a little bit about the parking lots.
Yeah.
So, what made you get interested in that?
Yeah, again, another one of those random situations. I had, I'd never considered investing in parking lots. I just, we all know that somebody owns them. Sometimes the municipality owns a lot of the parking in a city, but there's always those surface parking lots or a garage that maybe it's owned by a private individual or a company. And again, had never considered investing in it, but I interviewed a gentleman on my podcast. Probably now it's probably been 6 or 7 years. I lose track of time. Definitely 6 years ago, if not more, and he happened to be a real estate broker that specialized in selling parking assets.
Oh.
And he was one of like a few that actually specialized in across the country. There's not, I mean, I could count on one hand how many brokers actually specialize in selling assets, parking assets. And so
Mhm.
I interviewed him, and I got to learn the business model at a high level from the conversation I had with him. And I was very intrigued. I had the same feeling. I had the same feeling after I talked with him for an hour that I had when I had the lunch with Randy many years back about mobile home parks. I had that same gut feeling. I'm like, there's something here. And I've never heard anyone talk about parking lot investments. I don't know anyone that owns a parking lot. I need to dig a little deeper. And so I did. And we dug for a couple of years. We spent a lot of time studying and going to industry conferences and understanding the business model and just where we saw the opportunity. And what we found is that, there's a big portion of parking that's owned by municipalities. So like those aren't really opportunities to us. A lot of times, cities or states don't sell their investments,
Mm.
but there was plenty of privately owned parking assets,
Yes.
garages and lots that are owned by a lot. What we found is a lot of times they were very old owners that have owned it for 40, 50 years,
Mhm.
sometimes generational assets, and a lot of those assets that are owned by those old mom and pop operators don't run them efficiently. They haven't maximized technology. They still have parking lot tenants that accept cash. That cash 100% guarantee does not make it all back to the owner. They don't adjust their parking rates based on demand factors. Like if you have a parking lot that's near a downtown area, but then it's also an area where there's sporting events and things like that. Well, then there's like
Mhm.
there's a roller coaster of demand
Right.
times, and if you're only charging one fee, $5 an hour or whatever it might be, 24/7, then you're losing out because there's definitely times where you could be charging probably $50 flat fees for when there's an event or a concert or something, things. So
Yes.
anyway, there's technology that allows you to adjust that and maximize the revenue. And so we saw an opportunity in buying assets from just operators they weren't good operators. They've owned it for so long. It's a cash business for them. It's like an ATM machine for them, but like it wasn't performing nearly as well as what it could be. So
Mhm. Wow. Yeah, because parking is definitely, I can see that being really hot, parking lots, especially near arenas and
yeah,
places where they hold special
that's right.
events. Because
Courthouses, courthouses are big for us. Events, so like sporting arenas,
mhm.
restaurants, downtown nightlife. There's a litany of things that are kind of demand drivers for us, but those are the big ones that we look for. And so, most of the stuff that we own, it's within a few blocks of a government center, a courthouse. It's within a few blocks of an entertainment venue, and it's within a few blocks of at least one sports arena. And then there's other factors. There's other office buildings and retail and things like that that kind of layer in there. But the big ones are government,
Yes.
sports and restaurant and entertainment, nightlife.
And it sounds like it's a low maintenance um investment as well.
It can be, so parking garages, while they're all concrete structures for the most part, there's still, when you start looking at those types of assets in colder states where there's, for example, you're up in Pennsylvania, it snows, you guys put salt on
Yeah.
the roads, right? Over time, over time, just like any other investment, if you don't reinvest money back into it,
Yeah.
concrete doesn't last forever. It gets cracks in it.
Yes.
It gets water penetration. Inside that concrete is steel rebar that supports it. And so I've seen many assets that we didn't buy because they had been neglected for so long while they were still operational. Water
Mm-hmm.
has made its way in, and they're deteriorating from the inside out. And so inevitably, at some point in time, it's probably going to have to be torn down. And so there's a certain budget we put forth every year to put like seal in, and we just do improvements. We repaint lines, we power wash, we upgrade lighting to LED lighting, and just so there's ongoing things that you have to do. It's not kind of a set and forget it. So, but that's parking garages. Parking lots, on the other hand, there's not a lot that you have to do. I mean, most of our parking lots, they're asphalt. We might repave them every 5 to 8 years. We might put new
Mm-hmm.
like bumper stops in. We might repaint the yellow parking lines, might put some lighting in or upgrade lighting, but outside of that, there's really not a lot to do in a surface asphalt parking lot. And
Okay.
some of them are even asphalt. Some are just crushed stone. If that's what they
Yeah.
were, then that's what we keep them as.
Yeah, I know. I've parked on a few of those.
Yeah.
For sure. Okay, let's talk a little bit about your book, The Cashflow Investor.
Hmm.
What can people take away from your book?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the book is a compilation of 20 plus years of, again, I've owned pretty much every different asset type. I've owned hundreds of single family homes. I've owned hundreds of, actually thousands of apartment units, mobile home parks all across the country, office retail. I mean, you name it. I can't, assisted living. I can't think of an asset type outside maybe large industrial. I've never owned like a large industrial property, but mostly everything else I've got some type of experience in personally, not just like investing with a group, but I've got firsthand experience. And I've learned a lot over the years. I've gone, I went through 2008, went through the downturn of that, and it was a incredible challenge to kind of maintain
Yeah.
and even rebuild after that because I lost a lot. And so it's kind of my life story and lessons learned along the way. But on top of that, I've interviewed since I've been podcasting since 2014. I've interviewed on my show, on my primary show, I've interviewed some of the top developer and commercial real estate investors in the country, in the world, actually. And I've been able to ask them, just kind of what they've learned all the way, trying to extract their life lessons, right? Because they've been doing it for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. They've taken all those lessons I personally learned, and I put them inside the book and tried to make it in a easily digestible, a book that could be absorbed by someone that's either just getting started or even someone that maybe has made a few investments, but they want to see the bigger opportunity. And I do think that
Hmm.
the bigger opportunity is doing larger commercial investments. I think it's at first it might be scary. It might seem to be prove to be more challenging. The numbers are bigger, so that turns a lot of people off. But ultimately, I think that it's actually easier is probably not the right word, but it's a more efficient investment. It's easier to get
Hmm.
financing a lot of times. It's easier to raise money for a deal. It's easier to increase value. There's lots of additional benefits. There's better debt available. There's lots of non-recourse debt where you don't have to sign your personal balance sheet to actually to buy a property. And so like
Hmm.
there's lots of benefits associated with it. And I'm just trying to show folks the way to get to it, the way to get there.
Yeah, okay. And how do people get the book?
So they can grab a free copy, actually a free physical copy. You just have to, we have it set up to where you just have to pay, shipping and handling. I think it's like $6 or something like that. But if they go to kevinbupp.com/free book,
Hmm.
again, they just put their information in there and pay for the shipping and handling fee. Again, I think it's either $6 or $7. It's not much. They'll get a true physical copy of the book mailed to them, and
Wow.
um, or they can go to Amazon and they can. I think it's $20 or $23 or something like that on Amazon. So I'd say get the free book version of it and pay the $6 or $7 handling, and you get the same thing.
Yes, absolutely. Wow, you have so much knowledge. I wish we had more time because I'd like to dig into some intricates myself. But quickly, the best advice for beginning investors.
Yeah, that's a good question. I would say that there's a lot of resources out there now. That there's a lot of resources that did not exist when I was getting started 20 years ago. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
the internet was around, but it wasn't what it is today.
Mm-hmm.
YouTube wasn't really a thing. Um, there weren't podcasts, back then to
Mm-hmm.
to find whatever topic you want to learn about. You can find multiple podcasts and YouTube channels that literally specifically teach to that, right? So I would say that while there's a lot of resources, the other thing that you have to be worried about is actually getting overwhelmed with the amount of resources that are out there, and trying to stay focused. And so I'd say the best advice I give is first and foremost, figure out what you want to spend your time and energy on. There's a million and one different ways to make money in real estate.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't matter what vehicle you choose. I mean, it could be a single family investments. You could buy notes. You can buy different types of commercial real estate. It doesn't matter, right? Like pick one because you like the fundamentals of it, because
Mm-hmm.
whatever it aligns with whatever your investment philosophy is, and it doesn't matter what everyone else thinks. It's like I like this for X, Y, and Z reasons. Once you pick that one, ignore everything else around you and learn as much as you can just about that one thing, whether it be, again, mobile home parks, single family homes, parking
Mm-hmm.
lots. It doesn't matter. Not I like parking lots and mobile home parks. I think they're the best, but I own other types of real estate as well, and I love the other asset class, and so it doesn't matter that what I'm doing. Don't worry about me. Do what makes sense the most to you, and then literally dive deep into it. Go find other people that are doing just that. Like go to your local investment clubs, get involved in forums, go to just a ton of conferences now. Meet others that are actually to where you want to be, and align yourselves with them.
Mm-hmm.
Surround yourselves with them, and once you do that, I mean, once you truly start surrounding yourselves with folks that are actually doing what you want to do, it makes it a lot more achievable. Number one, you kind of build an alliance with a supportive network, a group
Yes.
that has access to resources that you're going to need. They needed them, they found them, they were, so you're ultimately going to need the same resources as well. And um,
Absolutely.
there's really no reason to to truly not be successful, and that doesn't mean you're not gonna have challenges. You might lose money on some deals, right? Like it's just part of being a business owner and taking risk.
Mm-hmm.
But to say you want to do it and actually not to be able to get involved and not start buying investments, it's just a matter of you making the decision and actually starting on that path. I just lay
Absolutely.
out the basics of what you need to do, and like it really doesn't have to get more difficult than that. Don't overcomplicate it. Go get out there, meet people, talk to people, dive deep
Mm-hmm.
into one focused area and learn as much as you can. Read books, and
Mm-hmm.
that's it. And just take action. Don't just
Yes.
absorb all the information. You got to take action at some point as well.
Absolutely. So again, if people want to invest, how do they get in contact with you?
Yeah. So again, go over to investwithsunrise.com. Again, investwithsunrise.com. It's our company website. They can, there's a pathway there to learn more about our current offering. They can see the different types of investments that we have
Mhm.
available to invest in. They can also see some historical information about our company and different deals we've done. We've got a lot of lots of information on that site. So just they can spend probably a good 30 minutes just kind of tinkering around and just learning a little bit more about who we are and what we do.
Okay. And the book.
Yeah, in the book, kevinbupp.com/free book. And they get a free copy for just paying shipping and handling.
Wow. Thank you, Kevin. This is you. We did a lot of information in a short period of time.
That's
But
great.
people will be able to go to your website and be able to really dig in and really decide which way they want to go. You also have the free book. So there's no reason for anybody who wants to get into the space not to, because you sound like you've done it all pretty much, and you've got a wealth of information to share. So I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule to join us today. And also, audience, thank you. And looking forward to having other conversations, Kevin.
Yes, it's been fun being here. Thanks for having me on, and definitely look forward to future conversations with you.
Absolutely.